Welcome back, sparklers, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark. I am your host, Kim Duff Selby, bringing you sparkles from across the world, the land, the country. Today, my guest is Mary Jo Cranmore, and we've been chatting before I hit record because I just connect with people. My 3 words of the year: connection, collaboration, and community. And I love connecting with Mary Jo. And we're going to get into it. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Mary Jo is an intuitive astrologer, a tarot reader, and a spiritual path healer. And she's been doing this work for over 25 years. She is also the host of a YouTube channel, which is so much fun because she does a weekly tarot card reading and you get to go, huh? What? I don't know. Does that resonate? Maybe. And we're going to go into intuition and how to work on our intuition. I think I'm just saying all this stuff because I believe that that's what we're going to talk about. But we're also want to hear all about how Mary Jo got into this work because I love origin stories. I think it's fascinating. Welcome, Mary Jo, before I talk too much. Welcome to Ignite Your Spark.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing so great now that I'm here in front of my Zoom with my candle lit, talking to you. Thank you for being here.
Excellent. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Before we get into you and your story, I like to ask my guests, how do you ignite your spark?
Well, there has been many different ways I have been doing that in the past, that I have done that in the past. And most recently, I think the most sparkly thing that I have is my little dog, Charlie, that was sitting right here, that isn't sitting right here, not right now. But we go on, he gets me out in the wintertime. We go for walks. We do all kinds of fun things. We dance in the kitchen. We do lots of lovely things. And that is a physical kind of connection for me. That's a spark.
Mhm.
My work is I am just always constantly having new ideas. And if I ever kind of run aground, which is, I think what you're talking about, like reigniting your spark or igniting your spark, all I have to do is just recognize that I'm like not in my center. I'm not in my center. If I'm not getting this flow of ideas, this flood of ideas, then like, okay, I'm off. And I'm either hanging out with the wrong people, I'm hanging out in not such a good place myself, either something's going on with me that I'm not paying attention to, or I'm like trapped in the past, usually trapped in the past. So I spend every morning, I'm awake between 4:30 and 5:30. And so I spend every morning just getting myself back on center. It's easy to do for me in the morning because you're coming out of sleep and it just feels really peaceful. Charlie and I hang out. I have a little fireplace thing in my bedroom and I do my readings and I just align myself and I just ask the question, what is needed for today for me? What is needed for today? And then things just keep flowing. So I feel like if ever I'm not having that spark, then I know I'm really out of alignment.
That is such a unique take on that question. And I have never heard it that way, when you are out of flow, basically. That because the ideas are usually coming. And this is really making me think about ways I ignite my spark. I know how I do that, but I'm going to pay more attention now to when things are not flowing, because that means you're blocked. And that means you need to ignite your spark. It's just a little bit different take on that question, which of course I appreciate. I've been asking it over 150 times now. So I appreciate it when someone interprets it in a little bit different way. And sometimes people say, I don't know what you mean by that. And I'm like, well, you answer it however you want to answer that, because I don't like to give people a parameter. I thank you. You've helped me already today. Okay, bye-bye. No.
I love it. Well, I am a fire sign, so I have no trouble with spark, but sometimes I have trouble with flow. So that's where I sit with that question.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, I definitely have trouble with flow. Definitely. I'm an air sign, but I have trouble. I think I'm too blocked. I think that I feel like I'm stuck a lot. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Well, can
more.
I give you a little secret here?
Please,
Because,
please, here to
we're
share.
part of the Western world, right?
Yeah,
The Western world is such a focus on your mind,
yeah.
such a focus on thought and logic and mind. I've got a ton of air too. I've got a Gemini moon, Libra rising. I'm an Aquarius progressed sun, and I'm an Aquarius Venus. So tons of air. And so it's really easy to get like stuck in our head and stuck in our head. But that's not useful for this situation, because your brain is it's just kind of like a computer or a calculator. Like a calculator doesn't do anything unless you put something in it.
Mm.
The computer won't do anything unless you give it an instruction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an organizational machine. Your mind is an organizational machine. Your mind can decipher things, can categorize things, can do a lot of stuff with what you put into it. But if you're putting garbage into it, that's not helpful. And if you're thinking that your thinking is your intuition, then you're also blocking that intuition, like you're talking about, right? You're also using it's useful, it's a great thing to have, but it's not for that purpose. So when you're needing a new answer to something like, like Galileo or Da Vinci or people
Mm-hmm.
like that, they did not have the capability of thinking it. They would go to sleep. They would do something else. They would go into nature. And then,
Yeah.
because it would come from not thinking.
And it's
Thinking
all
doesn't help.
yeah, all the distractions too. Let me scroll through this. Let me
Mm.
read 7,000 emails. Let me do this. Let me do that. And I just find myself, I don't know how kids are doing it these days, but I am distracted
Mm.
like nobody's business. And that's
Yeah.
probably one way to access our intuition too, isn't it? To just let go and not try so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is, again, like a little secret. And I definitely, I give everybody who's listening permission to not read every damn email that comes in your email inbox. Please don't do that, because seriously, like in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, right? There's just so much that you can do. And it's like, that's why you got to center yourself. Don't pick up that phone until you've done that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Don't pick it, because most
yeah.
people could find it right from where you're sleeping.
Yep.
It's within your arms. And if you don't pick up that phone and you spend, I know this sounds like a luxury, but sometimes people have to wake up a little bit earlier to do this if you're a bounce out of bed person. And I definitely am not. I like to have that. I mean, it's usually 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm designing a life that this is what I want. I want to be able to have the luxury of time in the morning so that I can really center myself, get guidance about what's coming through, what do I need to know today, what will be helpful for me today, what should I stop doing today.
Yeah.
And I always get something. I always get, drawn to something in that morning ritual that I do. And I've been in those morning times when nothing came.
Yeah.
And I was like, you are out of alignment somewhere. You
Right.
really
That's
are.
when you
And so
have
that
to
was the work.
go back and flow, go back and flow.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
I really want people to know you were in television and you were a producer and an executive producer for many years. How did you transition and why and what brought you to tarot and astrology? And then the second part of that, which one was first, tarot or astrology?
Um, oh darn. I wish I had this book right near me. I usually have all the books right around me. Actually, numerology came first.
Mm.
I was interested. This all happened like high school, college. I was, fleetingly interested in astrology, numerology, tarot. There's a great book. It was like published in the 70s. Faith Javane and Dusty Bunker. Those are the authors. And it's called like Numerology and the Divine Triangle. It's a fantastic book because it braids the three of those things together.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's astrology. There's astrology in there. There's numerology and there's tarot, and it goes from each of the cards. It shows numerological. It shows mythological. All these different kinds of pieces. to the meanings. It's a very unique way of looking at the meanings of the tarot cards, which is how I got interested in tarot cards, because I was interested in numbers and then astrology and then tarot. And so that was happening like in college. Every time I would have these, like, I really am, over the course of my life, I'm really very aware that I like live life in like little boxes of time, and they're hooked together by these threads of interests and threads of not people, but all intellectual interests or all flow based kind of things. And I had this little package of life. I've moved 21 times in my adult life, which you
Oh,
do when you're in television. And
oh,
so you have these little, my mother used to call them happy islands. And I'm like, they're not always happy, but they're definitely islands. And they were all kind of grouped together. So I went, I had that interest, and I went into television. I was a producer for a long time, a line producer, which is basically, I was in charge of a show, a newscast. And I did that for a long time. I did features, I did sports features, I did political features. And I worked as a kind of a stringer for Good Morning America up here in northern New England. I have also had jobs in corporate America when I got so sucked dry by being in media, because you're really birthing something new every single day, with a team
right,
of a herd of cats,
right.
like you're trying to, it's exhausting. For me, it was anyway. And so I would go into corporate America where I could kind of be less every single day feeling.
Mhm.
And so I did marketing and media and PR and all of that kind of stuff. So this was a very windy tale of all of these kinds of jobs. And it brought me to the place where I had my own video marketing company where I would teach people to be on camera. I would teach them, and this was in 2011, 12, 13, 14. I would have clients and I would make videos, and, it would be in their website, it would be on. And I really had to explain why video was important back then. Like before we had, before 2020, even, I think now people understand the value of video, and they understand the value of having people sample
Right.
you by hearing your answers to things. Um, but I really had to teach people, and then you had to write me a big check so I could do it for you. And I was like, oh my God, this is ahead of its time a little bit. It's too early. And so that got me exhausted. And so I was this close to just like, I don't know. And so I had this moment in July of 2017 where I just was like, I'm done with this. And I just put it to the side, and I had one of these kind of like peak moments in like like a parking lot in July, like nowhere in, central Connecticut or something. And I was like, wow, the air feels brighter and everything feels sparklier. Like I had just pushed, I just was done with it. I was really done with it. And it opened something up. I had like this like upper level chakra, like complete opening. And I had a very good friend who was like, just do something that's fun for a little while. You have enough projects to get you through the end of the year. Use this,
Mhm.
use this. Okay.
Mhm.
And so I went home and I was like, what's fun? And all my books of astrology and tarot and everything were sitting in front of me. And I was like, oh, yeah, what about that? So I started making video because I have everything for video. And I just, I don't know what brought me to YouTube. I just thought, I've always thought YouTube was an important player on the field because it's search. So much of the other social media is not search driven.
Right.
And so I just started making, readings. I had someone send me an article from the New York Times that said, hey, tarot's big on YouTube. And I was like, how does that even work? What is that even? What are they doing? And I went and found some people, and I watched, and I spent some money, and I was like, oh, I see. I'm like, I'm just plugging into an archetypal experience.
Right. Right.
So when I'm
Exactly.
plugging into a Gemini experience, I'm plugging into an archetypal story that is floating around in the universal unconscious. And that's why there's Geminis in Buffalo and in Italy and in South America who all resonate with that same story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is cool. So I just started doing it and the channel took off. And I thought I was, I had told my friend that the one who said, just use this.
Yeah.
And I had told her it was really growing. And she said, are you going to need to get a job? And I was like, no, the channel has grown so fast in 3 months. It's self-supporting me already.
Wow.
Already.
That's everyone's dream.
And I'm telling you, I was like 100% in gratitude for that. And so the first year it grew and grew and grew. And I took money, lots of money. I got rid of all credit card debt. I got rid of taxes. I got rid of everything. And then I was like completely like, okay, like what's next? So it was a really interesting experience, a complete turnaround from where I was.
And do you attribute that to the fact that you let go? That you had this sort of, because as we were talking before, so many of us push for what, hello, raising my hand here, for what we want. And when we let go, apparently, I'm afraid to let go. I think we're afraid, right? Fear, intuition. That's
of course we're afraid because we've created a system that there's trap doors everywhere. There's danger around every corner for people. They don't, we're putting people in terrible positions where they can't, their life is not supporting. And, a full-time job isn't enough. Like that's a ridiculous thing that we put ourselves in that position as a culture. And I do believe that is changing. And I also believe that one of the things, it is the combination, I will credit the combination of letting go, of being like, you know what? Either I'll have to, I'm going to give this amount of time. I'm just going to have fun. And then I can't, if I need to, I'll go look for a job. I know I can get a job. Okay. I've done it a million times.
Yeah.
So I knew. And so the other thing I did was I really went in search of, and I taught a lot of classes on this. What shows up in your astrology? How do you see a soul purpose in your astrology? And then how do you translate that into action?
Okay, well, that's a lot. And what is true for so many people is that we all have different signs. We all have different rising signs. We're all such unique individuals that we want to look to the stars. We want to look to someone else to feed us the information. And I am imagining that you work with people to help them access their own intuition. And I love asking this question. I have interviewed a lot of people who are so excellent at accessing their intuition. And I guess I'm always asking these questions because some of us out here in the Netherlands, in the world, need
hinterlands.
That's the word. That is it, not Netherlands. But I'd like to visit there.
Hinterlands.
Only that ADHD thing. And we really want to know how we want to know about ourselves. That's why the YouTube channels do so well. Because everybody
100%.
I want you to give me the answer. I want this person to give me the answer. Why am I not getting it? And we as human beings, I realize that, on this earth, spiritual beings living a human experience are challenged to access our own intuition so that we can not always have to look to others. Do you work with people?
Absolutely. And there's so many things to say about that, because the reason that the YouTube, and I've said this before on my channel, it's not about you relying on any of the tarot readers. It's about you going, yep, that's for me. Nope, that's not for me. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because so, it's not that you're the tarot reader or the astrologer or anything like that is telling you something. If they told you something like, you should really live in Zimbabwe. And, I really think that, and you're just going like, that's crazy talk. And it's coming from a place of like, that's not me. Then that's an inner knowing. That's what it is. So the tarot readings are about you recognizing, because how do you think the intuition got shut down in the first place? Because someone told you to doubt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told you that wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you believed that voice back then for all of these years, that you're not allowed to believe yourself, then okay, it may come from another person. Maybe it needs to, for like as training wheels,
Mm-hmm.
until people can go, okay, yeah, I got it. Because you're right, the tarot channels, a lot of the YouTube channels, people want to know about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incumbent upon it's incumbent upon you to take that and do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, okay, now I know what we're looking for here is a frequency. We're looking for the frequency of your aha, because that is the place where you can hang your hat on this is intuition.
Right.
When you have an aha moment and you feel that frequency, remember it.
And try to reclaim that. Is
And
that right?
that's where, so just be in the world, right? You're being in the world. So you have like somatic senses, right? You have like the touch, taste, sense, smell, all the smells, whatever, hearing. You have those senses, right? In this 3D world, in this horizontal world.
Mm-hmm.
But your intuition is a vertical thing, right? Your intuition is something that's coming through you, and it is your high self. It is then opening up further on, up to guides. Your high self is your own intuition. When you learn about what your own feeling of being in alignment is, then you can start opening up to guides beyond that. But let's
Mm-hmm.
not do that until we have our own voice down.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're opening yourself up, and there's energies out there that are not positive.
Right.
And so you got to know the difference. Otherwise you get the trickster, and that's, useful, but painful.
This is all sort of coming to me as we're talking, because so many of us, and I've said this a million times in podcast interviews, give our power away. And the reason I'm thinking of it is I had doctor appointments today. And as you get over a certain age, they scare the heck out of you with, well, you need to take this and you need to do that and you need to get this shot and this vaccine in. And my mind was spinning, and I said, no, no, no. And I think we need to take time to realize what is right for us, whether it is in a situation with a doctor or a friend or a business, because not everyone is strong enough, or I'm going to say strong enough to say, no, hold on. We just
Yeah,
assume
sure.
because someone has had this much education or someone is higher up a corporate ladder that they have the answers that we need, when in reality, we have the answers. Right?
Correct. And I think the thing is, people bring information, right? People who are well-educated bring information to the table. I think everybody's got to do what's right for them. I think we are also part of a social fabric. So we also have a responsibility as a group, because, I think that's one of the things that's going to be most surprising to people as we get more into the age of Aquarius, is that we are not an island. There is no such thing as a human being as an island. You're a bunch of particles. We're connected, much in the same way I'm talking about these archetypal experiences. So our individual choices have impacts on groups, on families, on communities. It's not just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do and it's right for me, and everybody else can, go pound sand. That's not really the truth, right? It's sort of like, what's right for me, and then how do I kind of work within this kind of fabric? Because not only are we responsible to each other, but we also have to make those decisions for ourselves that are good for ourselves.
Right.
Interwoven
in the fabric of life, we are just a little thread, and we have to make that decision so our thread doesn't break, but we also have to take into account all the others around us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. And I think that's something that has been challenging a lot of people. I think that there's so much information that we don't know. There's a lot of fear out there. It's totally understandable. And it's really just sort of like, who do you believe? You know, the people who are waking up now, the people who are learning that their intuition is possibly their most important skill, I will tell you that's going to get exponentially bigger as we get into the age of AI and other things, because AI does not have a human frequency. And if you are not connected and don't feel like you can discern a frequency, then that's what people will fall for, is this manufactured stuff.
Yeah, it's a little frightening, but we have the power to overcome that. It's
We
just
do. 100%.
yeah, we just have to take it upon ourselves and actually do it and realize that our worth is more important than that robot over there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I mean, like, you don't have to. I mean, I think it's interesting to note that so much of the stuff that we see floating around us, because we have access to a computer every day in our pocket that is many times more powerful than any computer in the 80s or any kind of access you would have to the Library of Congress. Or this is here, right here.
Yeah.
And and that's why it's so overwhelming, because we're still kind of in our infancy in terms of information age.
Right.
And we're still not knowing that, like, you can just not look at it.
Right. Right. Well, I don't look at the news. I don't read the news. I mean, I know what's going on just because you hear people talking, but I choose not to do that. I've also said that a bajillion times.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I have my Twitter feed is full of like producers and reporters and stuff that I know, and like people who are lawyers in front of the Supreme Court and people like that. And so that's my little dip into the news, and that's as far as I go.
All right. We're chatting in January. This will not air until late February, but numerology this year, I really felt an energy that 2024. And I know that I don't mean to say I know, but I've listened and read that
you have a knowing. Yes.
I have a knowing.
Yeah.
The 8 year is one of manifestation and really moving along. And I think that's really exciting. I mean, always a new year seems exciting just because it's like, okay, let's try again this year, even though it's just one day to the next. It's not like, same me. I don't do that. New year, new me. New Year.
I don't do that shtick. No.
Same me.
Yeah, for sure.
But there is something, right, to be said astrologically and numerologically when we transition into another year. I'm sort of curious about that. I don't know.
Well, the 8 year, I agree with you. I find, first of all, I had a ton of Leo show up in every single reading I did today, which was really interesting. We were talking before we started recording. And Leo is the 8 in most tarot decks. It also has the lemon skate above its head, which is the symbol of infinity, which if you turn it on its side is the 8.
Right.
So it is a lot about what as above, so below, right? And that's why it's such a strong manifestation energy. So what you're doing is you're basically bringing things you're picking them out of the flow, right? In a quantum field, and you're manifesting them in a linear timeline that we're in here, in a 3D kind of tangible way, right? Yeah. So the energy of that lemon skate, the energy of power. I mean, the strength card is an 8 and is a woman. Okay. It is about feminine power. And you and I were talking before about there is a massively interesting and ubiquitous healing energy around the wounded masculine right now. And this is a year of feminine power. So I find that tremendously interesting that those two things are kind of coinciding. And if you want to work with that energy of 8, I think it's fabulous to use that lemon skate, that 8 on its side, or make it look like an 8. And just think about like the cycles of things and how other things just flow into another. And that is what the 8 is,
Yeah, I was
right?
going to ask if you have some suggestions for how we can best utilize our own energy. Well, you just gave one to picture the infinity or 8 sign. If we
Mhm.
visualize that, let's get a little tip for people to give them
Okay.
a boost to get going on this year. Even though it'll be
Oh,
February, it'll still be the newish year.
here's the strength card. Oh, damn. In this deck, it's not that. Okay, it's not a woman. Anyway, in another deck it is. I'll have to find that for you. But at this time of year, first of all, we're recording this right before the new moon in Capricorn. And
11th. The 11th?
new moons and full moons. New moons are about manifesting, are about putting intention out into the world. And full moons are about receiving. So new moons are masculine and full moons are feminine, right? So the new moon in Capricorn is about long-term intention. Long-term intention, because Capricorn is earth energy, it's Saturn energy. And no, in the Northern Hemisphere, we are not planting seeds in January, but we are, like, you can do seedlings in your basement. You can do that and create that type of garden. This is a great time to put for roots, for understanding your roots, for understanding ancestral information, for understanding all kinds of ways of manifesting from a ground up kind of thing, which the astrology chart is. The IC is your roots, and the MC is the leaves that come out and show to the world. So if you wanted to do something for a new moon, whatever, any new moon, you can set an intention and you can infuse it into a crystal. This is citrine, and this is about abundance. So basically all you're doing is you're opening the container to your, basically you're opening and saying, hello, spirit, it's Mary Jo. I'm here to manifest some wealth and abundance in my life, abundance in all things positive for me. And you're sort of meditating on this crystal and you're flowing energy to it. All right. You're flowing energy to it. And then what you do during the next 6 months, not just the 2 weeks between that and the full moon in Capricorn doesn't happen until June. So whatever you're manifesting during the new moon realizes 6 months later. Okay. Or within that 6-month time. Full new moon in Capricorn can be many, many years of manifestation. You plant it right now, many years of manifestation. You can make that part of the intention. And so whenever you're getting a full moon, the end of this month, we have a full moon in Leo. So look back 6 months ago. This is why I'm such a freak for journals, because if you look back 6 months ago to see what was going on with you, I write every single morning what was going on with me. If I look back to the new moon in Leo, I'm going to see what I was manifesting. Was I in a good space or was I not in a good space? And then now that comes to roost at the full moon in Leo at the end of January. So you'll have a new moon in Aquarius in February. And it follows right along. It follows right along with the zodiac.
Oh, it's so fascinating. I feel I'm overwhelmed and fascinated. And we are coming to the end of our time here. You've been so generous with your time, but you have such great information on your website too, and your YouTube channel. And do
Thank you.
you work with people one-on-one or not anymore? Or how do you work?
I have a group called Pathfinders that is my core group, and we do a live every Wednesday at 1:00, and they can ask questions and I pull cards. I know a lot of them been in there for years. I know them. I actually have had lunch with some of them when I was traveling around, or dinner, whatever. But Pathfinders is a very intimate experience. I haven't done one-on-one readings in a long time, but I want to promote. I have a group of tarot readers that I certify, and they're on the channel. So you can go get a private reading, because got sick of saying I'm not doing private readings right now. So there's that. And every once in a while I'll show up on there and make some openings to give private readings because it's fun, right? It's fun. It's interesting. I love the one-on-one. Most of my work is in classes, and that's why I do the general readings, because I want people to get a flavor for their own intuition. I want people to, work on helping themselves, and then, hey, level up into Pathfinders, because this year, 2024, is the year that I'm adding a half an hour to every Pathfinder session, and I'm teaching a little bit of learning your own intuition and how to harness that.
Oh, that's so valuable. I mean, that's something we all need unless you're totally tuned in, and I feel like everybody has their intuition come and go at different times too, but wouldn't it
Absolutely.
be fabulous to access that all the time? And I know that's, one of
Yeah,
your
and just know
your
the frequency and
goals.
just know the frequency of it. Because, people come to the channel a lot and they're in crisis. And I'm like, you can't learn to ride a bicycle in a hurricane.
Right,
So you've got to start doing this work when things are peaceful, because your voice, it doesn't scream at you. That's fear.
right.
It's useful, but it's still fear.
I think that if people are listening and they are in crisis mode, just take a deep breath, step back, and maybe start going to your YouTube channel and try to see what messages resonate with them, with you. I was trying to do that today because I think it is
Yes.
really helpful. Just try to, because you have to take a deep breath and you have to go, okay, and you kind of have to pretend, okay, I'm not going to get anything out of this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just
Yeah.
absorb, right?
Right. I mean, I listen to a lot of other tarot readers. There's some I like, there's some that I always get triggered by. And I think that's useful too, because that's showing you the things you need to work on. So I don't shy away from readings that have terrible titles or scary titles. Don't shy away from that.
Right.
Life, that gives texture and flavor to your intuition. So allow yourself to have the triggers. That is the most meaningful information. It's
Yeah.
showing you where the bodies are buried.
Right. I mean, I've often, and we also, people bother us, like you're bugged by people because they have a part of you that you don't like about yourself that you see in them.
Absolutely. Just turn the pronoun around. Like, what is it about me that I just don't like? It's not them. Everybody's just walking around being a mirror for you.
Yes.
Seriously.
Oh, I see that so well in my own life ever since I first started realizing that. I'm like, okay, give that person grace because honestly, you got that in you too.
100%. Or
Yeah.
you wouldn't care. You wouldn't care.
It would just be like water off a duck's back.
Oh
Um,
my God. You wouldn't care at all. You'd be like, who's that? What are you talking? I mean, I burst into tears at an art store one time because this lady shamed me about buying the wrong paper for watercolors. And I was just in my little girl. I was just in there messing around, and she like shamed me in front of a group of people. And I like burst into tears and ran outside. And my ex-husband was like, what is wrong?
it
What
is
happened in there? I'm
interesting.
like,
No, and those things stick with you. Those things stick with you. And
I
you're
have a
not
half
good
a dozen
enough comes
stories.
into
Yep.
play. You're not good enough because you bought the wrong kind of watercolor paper. I mean,
100%.
I get it. We are, and that is, and obviously that's part of our human experience. We have to go through these things, that the negative things being pounded so that we can learn to release them and let go and try to step into our own power, whatever it is.
Absolutely. It's all just information. It's
Yeah.
all just information.
Oh, Mary Jo, thank you so much. What is your YouTube channel? Where can people find that?
It's called Soulful Revolution, and you can just, look up Soulful Revolution Sagittarius and you'll find me, or whatever, and you'll find me, because we've done a very good job of branding that name. So if you go searching Google or searching YouTube, you'll find it.
Yeah,
Soulful Revolution.
I'll put it at the end of the show notes. And this will also be on YouTube, listeners, so that you can actually see Mary Jo, and then you'll know how to find her. And that's your website as well, is Soulful
Yeah,
Revolution.
soulfulrevolutiontv.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Soulful Revolution TV. Of course,
Well,
it has to be TV.
we went off sort of on a different path than I had really anticipated, because I wanted to, you know, talk about this sentence on your little bio thing. And I just want to read this because I love it. It says, by revealing a person's life purpose using the tools of astrology, tarot, and numerology, Mary Jo believes that armed with that awareness, people become unstoppable. And I really just wanted to
100%.
end with that because I love that. Who doesn't want to become unstoppable in your own life? Whether you are looking to achieve fabulous, amazing wealth or dreams, or whether you are just looking to have a secure family environment, we want to become unstoppable. And I appreciate you doing that for others because my purpose for this podcast is to shine a light on others who are awakening the light within others as well. So
Correct. And I love that too, because I feel that the most often asked question I ever get is, how do I know for sure if, and then fill in the blank? How do I know, thinking for sure if, and then fill in the blank? And so there's a lot of work to be done in terms of, it's not a thinking, it's a knowing. And when you know your purpose, you don't doubt yourself.
right.
You don't doubt yourself.
There's so many things because what you had said earlier about the little islands that always contained a portion of you, I feel like that's how we are in life. If we look back, there's always the essence. There's always a little, at least in my own life, when I look back on what I
Absolutely
have done, the essence of what I know my purpose is woven throughout all my little islands. And it hopefully is throughout other people's. And if it's not, it means they weren't on purpose, right? They weren't possibly, but we all lead, we all take those traverse those paths to get to a certain point. And I'm always looking to fulfill my soul purpose in this lifetime. And
Absolutely.
I think it's a big question for another time is, how do we find that? How do we access that? And it really is all inner knowing. I get that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of taking steps towards what lights you up, what makes you shine.
Definitely. And there's so many different ways. There's so many roads to it. It's probably this, as many roads as there are people. There's so many different ways of doing it and finding it. And I think that's, you will only see the way by making the way. Like, you are the way, you are the path, and we each of us come to that realization in a different way.
Would you have, before I say goodbye to everyone, do you have a tip or a strategy that we could perhaps incorporate now to start us on that path to finding our life purpose, if perhaps people are not aware of that?
My tip to that is to, well, it depends on where you are in your life. If you have lived, countless generations like I have, or decades like I have, you will probably have some really good fodder for understanding what you're drawn to and what you're not drawn to. But I firmly believe in astrological direction of something called the North Node. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to recommend homework that you should look it up. North Node. I do teach a bunch of classes on it, and you can come to the channel, and there's some classes there. But pay attention to what that is, because a North Node is basically, it's a mathematical point. It doesn't matter in terms of like what it is, a body or an asteroid. It's a mathematical point that's pointing you in the direction of your purpose and your mission on this planet. A lot of people, take it as a job or a career, which it did fit in that way for me. It doesn't always have to, but it will be part of any kind of career path you do have. Because my North Node's in Gemini and I communicate for a living. So that makes total sense.
Because I don't know my time of birth, will I be able to determine my North Node?
Well, we can work on that. It is something that it takes 18 months to traverse through a sign. And so we have a good chance of at least identifying what the North Node is with you. And that means we'll also know your South Node. And a lot of people, most of the time, people come to the class hugging on to that South Node for dear life, because those are skill sets and things you brought with you into this life and you are a natural at.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's normal to embrace that, but at some point you're going to have a crisis in that arena in your life. And the answer is in that North Node.
Ooh, so interesting. I have
And
to
when you do that, right, when you go toward that north node and you embrace that, because it's always outside of your comfort zone. North
Oh,
node is outside of that comfort zone. And then that south node skill set will open up again because you are here to learn new things. You're here to, especially people who find themselves, yeah, there's two kinds of people. The people who go, ooh, that's exciting. I want to understand what that energy is. And people who go, not doing it.
yeah.
And they, they will have tower moment after tower moment after tower moment in their life because they will not have even been curious enough to understand that this information or this direction is pointing you in the direction of what you're here to do and
Mm.
be and become.
Ooh,
And how you employ that is up to you. You can employ it in 1,000 different ways.
such good information. I've heard about the North Node, but now I'm really curious as to it. You've really opened up my mind, and I know that you've opened up my listeners' minds with a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming. So I recommend everybody go to your YouTube channel to sort of start this journey if you have not already started on the discovery of your astrological, not sign, but way of being. Because the North Node, I don't know what my North Node is. So I've got to go into this. And really, that's why I do this podcast, to learn and share so that other people can learn, because we are all here to shine our light, people. And Mary
That's
Jo,
right.
thank you for shining today on my podcast. Really,
Oh, thank you for having me here. My job is to elevate others as well. And so, I'm working on that every single day.
yeah. And I think that we all should. And my little message to all of you sparkling humans out there is to embrace that information and work on shining your light more than just being a positive, sparkly person. It's really embracing what is truly, truly, authentically you. And then it's going to shine. And then people are going to say, how do I shine? And then they're going to shine. And then the whole world will be filled with light.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because
And we need it. And we need it. And,
we do.
it's definitely one of the reasons that I was opened up to this work and, super honored to be part of it.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Listeners,
you. Thank you for
uh,
having me.
of course, shine on, everyone. And if you are enjoying this podcast, I forget to ask you this, but please subscribe it. And if I was as good as your Uber driver, give me a 5-star review rating, because really it's not about me, it's about you. And it's about creating that sparkler effect that I like to call it, so that everybody's light is shining. So I appreciate you. I thank you. And thank you for shining. See you next time.